Hey, good morning, friends. Today, my friends, is Thursday, July the 24th, 2025, and the time now is 7:49 a.m. Friends, I want to talk briefly about the 25th Amendment. I want to provide a brief statement or ask question about the 25th Amendment regarding what is happening in the United States. And friends, I am talking specifically about Donald Trump's Epstein file or controversy surrounding Donald Trump and the Epstein situation, and also as pertaining to J.D. Vance, the possibility or probability of J.D. Vance and his supporters in the government using the 25th Amendment to go after Donald Trump. There are many who probably will doubt that, but I believe that J.D. Vance, like the rest of us, is a human being. And as human beings, we are competitive and also we are opportunistic. Therefore, when the opportunity arises or presents itself for us to achieve our greatest heights in endeavors, we take advantage of the opportunity and so on, whether we throw other people under the bus or not. So I'm going to talk specifically about the 25th Amendment, how it does apply to Donald Trump in current situation regarding the Epstein case and Donald Trump's health. Now friends, the 25th Amendment is a very interesting amendment which deals with presidential inability or disability and also succession. We are talking in this case in terms of the order of succession regarding the office of the presidency being filled. Friends, as I speak today, I am going to read the 25th Amendment in full. It does have 4 sections. I'm going to read the sections in full, and also I'm going to read each section and I'm going to provide or enact dramatically the stipulations of the 25th Amendment. But it begs the question, what is an amendment? An amendment, my friend, is an addition to a document. It's a change to a document. In this case, we are talking about the United States and the situation regarding Donald Trump's current situation and the possibility that J.D. Vance coming to power is a constitutional matter. Therefore, an amendment is a change or an addition to the Constitution, to a legal document of a country. Now, friends, if you look at the United States history, the United States is about 248 years old. This past July 4th, 2025, makes the United States 248 years old. The United States, throughout the course of its 248 years, have enacted or put into play, into effect, 27 amendments. However, of the 27 amendments, the first 10 amendments, which are the original amendment to the United States Constitution, is called or is known as the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights came about resulting from the situation in England, in Old England, where, for example, the average common man, the peasant, could not own guns. Guns was a privilege for the very rich, powerful, and influential. Also, in Old England, one could not criticize the king or talk bad about the king. If one does that, one could be arrested and thrown in jail. And one could be in jail for a long time without trial. The government could basically send the army, the soldiers, to go and lodge in someone's house, in someone's property, and that person has to be responsible for the soldiers. One could be arrested for committing crime in one district, in one area of the country, and be shipped to another to be stand trial. Now, friends, in terms of the amendments, the 27th Amendment of the United States, if one looks at the United States history or the amendments which have been put into effect, in place throughout the United States 248 years history, the first 10 amendments, which are known as the Bill of Rights, are very unique. And today, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, are very prominent in terms of Americans' day-to-day daily lives. And these, amendments are unique. However, two stands prominent, or I can say three stand very prominent. We are talking in this case the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment. So friends, what are the Bill of Rights? The Bill of Rights are the first 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. The First Amendment, it guarantees the people of the United States, or people in America, whether citizens or not, 5 rights. We are talking in this case, freedom of speech, press, petition, assembly, and religion. Freedom of speech, you can speak freely if you are not promoting violence against others or you're not defaming them. Freedom of press means you can publish as you wish. Freedom of assembly means people can assemble for whatever purposes. Freedom of petition means you can petition the government. Freedom of religion means the government does not establish a religion for the country and that everyone and anyone can worship as they choose. The Second Amendment is about the right to bear arms, the right to own and keep guns. So it basically is about the whole idea that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the defense, the security of a free people, free states. The right to bear arms cannot be infringed upon. But if you look at that, historians and scholars have argued about that, what it means by the well-regulated militia. When this amendment was put into place, the United States did not have any standing army. So who the United States depended on were the able-bodied young men to go and form into militia and defend and protect the country, the people, the colonies against Britain. Of course, many are taking that too far, especially regarding the Second Amendment, which means that many in America can just buy guns. They can own guns, semi-automatic rifle or not. Guns that are as powerful and dangerous as those used by the military. The Third Amendment is about quartering, which means that the government cannot send the army. The army cannot lodge in a person's house in times of peace or in times of war without the people's consent, or in a matter in which the government prescribes. Now, the government can make the lodging of soldiers in people's houses, probably by doing several things, and one being politicizing the people to the point where the people feel patriotic to join the war effort. The Fourth Amendment is about search and seizure, which means that the government, the police cannot arrest you and search you or seize your property without probable cause. This means that there must be a warrant, and the warrant must specify who to be searched, what to be taken, and where to be searched. The Fifth Amendment is probably the most popular, given that the United States is the number one when it comes to basically imprisoning its own people. The Fifth Amendment, or the plea the Fifth Amendment, deals with the right of a person to not incriminate him or herself. That means you cannot tell on yourself. You do not have to talk to the police. When the police come and arrest you, you can demand to the police that you have to speak to your lawyer first. This is because anything you say can be used and will be used against you or could be used against you in court. Therefore, the police have to read you your Miranda right, which is your right to remain silent, and that anything or everything you say could be used against you in court. The Sixth Amendment is the whole idea of speedy trial. This basically means you can be tried and you should be tried by your peers. When you're arrested, the process should be put into motion that you are tried immediately. And also, it is the idea that if you commit a crime in, let's say, New York, you cannot be shipped to California to be stand trial. One being that you did not commit the crime in California, and the people of California probably may be biased against you, they don't know you. The Seventh Amendment is the idea that in a case where the controversy of the damaged property reach or exceed $20, there should be a jury trial. The Eighth Amendment is the idea of no cruel or unusual punishment, which means that the crime should match the punishment, or the punishment should match the crime. The punishment cannot be cruel and it cannot be unusual. For example, if you steal a shoes which cost $100, they cannot fine you $3 million And also, if you steal a piece of candy, you cannot have your arms being chopped off because you steal a piece of candy. Because in this case, the crime or the punishment does not match the crime. The Ninth Amendment is the idea that the government cannot misconstrue, cannot misinterpret a law to basically infringe upon the rights of the people. So basically, the government cannot misinterpret one law to go after the people, to basically infringe the people's right. The 10th Amendment means that laws, responsibilities, authorities that are not specifically given to the states, the rights, the responsibilities that are not given to the states by the Constitution, or that are not prevented, that are not denied to the government, the federal government by the Constitution, automatically belong to the people and to the states, the individual states. Once again, the rights that are not given to the states directly by the Constitution or denied to the federal government belongs to the individual states, which can be the issuance of driver license and the conduction or prescription of educational rights, and also basically administering education. These are all rights that are belonging to the individual states and localities in each state. Now, friends, once again, I have said that throughout America's 248-year history, there has been 27 amendments put into play, okay, that are added to the Constitution. And I'm going to talk once again about the 25th Amendment, which is the amendment that deals with presidential inability or presidential disability and also succession. Friends, I'm going to read the 25th Amendment in full and then read the various sections or paragraphs in each section. Now, friends, before I do that, I want to bring something to your attention here. Now, according to USA.gov/presidential succession, the order of presidential succession. If a U.S. president cannot carry out the duties of the office, the responsibilities are passed to another government leader in a specific order. The President of the United States may be replaced if he or she, one, becomes incapacitated, dies, resigns, is unable to hold office, is removed from office. The U.S. Constitution and the Presidential Succession Act of 1947 outline the presidential order of succession. The line of succession of cabinet officers is in the order of their agency's creation. It reads, number 1 is the Vice President, number 2 is the Speaker of the House, number 3 is the President pro tempore of the Senate, who is the President of the Senate, number 4 is the Secretary of State, number 5 is the Secretary of the Treasury, number 6 is the Secretary of Defense, number 7 is the Attorney General, number 8 is the Secretary of the Interior, number 9 is the Secretary of Agriculture, number 10 is the Secretary of Commerce, number 11 is the Secretary of Labor, number 12 is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, number 13 is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, number 14 is the Secretary of Transportation, number 15 is the Secretary of Energy, number 16 is the Secretary of Education, number 17 is the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, number 18 is the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, friends, for the 25th Amendment, it reads, Section 1, in case of the removal of the President from office or of his death or resignation, the Vice President shall become President. Section 2, whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the Vice President, the President shall nominate a Vice President who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. Section 3, it reads, whenever the President transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the power and duties of his office, and until he transmit them a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. Section 4, paragraph 1. Whenever the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or such other bodies as the Congress may by law provide, transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the power and duties of his office. The Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President. Section 4, paragraph 2. Thereafter, when the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office unless the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or of such other bodies as Congress may by law provide, transmit within 4 days to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If the Congress, within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session, within 21 days after the Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President shall resume the powers and duties of his office. So that is very interesting. But one thing that I find to be interesting as well about the 25th Amendment, the way it is written, the 25th Amendment is not like other amendments and other historical documents. Let's say the Declaration of Independence and also the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence were both written in Old English or Old American English, legal English. However, if you look at this amendment, the 25th Amendment, it sounds much like current English. Even though, yes, you do have longer sentences and you do have some historical/legal phrases or words, I do believe that even the most uneducated person can be able to read this document, this 25th Amendment, and be able to comprehend, to understand it in full or in part. Now, friends, I am going to read dramatically enact the stipulations of the 25th Amendment. Section 1. In case of the removal of the President from office or of his death or resignation, the Vice President shall become President. In the United States, let's say President Trump dies. He goes to sleep and he doesn't wake up. Or let's say that President Trump was the president when the so-called assassination attempt took place and that the assassin had succeeded. J.D. Vance, as the Vice President of the United States, automatically becomes President. Section 2. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the Vice President, the President shall nominate a Vice President who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. J.D. Vance resigns, J.D. Vance dies, or Donald Trump is able to maneuver. Donald Trump is someone who is very concerned. He's very scared, of people who he doesn't trust. Let's assume Donald Trump doesn't trust J.D. Vance and he's able to maneuver and get J.D. Vance out of office. Donald Trump would then nominate someone to become the next Vice President. And the Congress, both houses, House of Representatives and the House of Senate, they have to vote by majority to confirm Donald Trump's nomination to become the next Vice President of the United States. Section 3, it reads, whenever the Vice President transmits, I'm going to pause. Transmit means to send something, to give something. In this case, sending or giving a letter, a legal letter, a formal letter to the Congress. I'm going to continue. Whenever the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits to them a written declaration to the contrary. Such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. So, it is about 8:20 a.m. on July the 24th, 2025. Donald Trump came in front of the press. Now, let me enact this. My fellow citizens, citizens of the Republic of Assholes and Dumbasses, it has been a great pleasure of mine. I have been humble. I am very fortunate to have served you as your 248 presidents. I have watched this country as it was brought down in many ways by the former president, the idiot who was in power. I have watched as you, the people of this great republic of assholes and dumbasses, manage to bring this country up, to make this country great again. However, my friends, my fellow citizens, I am unable to serve, I am unable to carry on as your president. And this is because last night I went to sleep and my dick fall off. Now friends, you know, I know, and we all know that a man cannot serve his country. A man cannot run anything with his dick fall off. A man cannot run a test on a car engine. A man cannot run an organization or a country. A man cannot run an entry exam with his dick fall off. You know, I know, and we all do not want a dickless president in office. Therefore, I can no longer, defective immediately, serve as your president. Now, for many of you who may laugh at my predicament, who may take my resignation as a joke, I want you all to know that you can all go fuck yourselves. You can all burn in hell. Also, perhaps, friends, you can all shove your feet deep down your ear holes, pull it out, put it in, pull it out, put it in, spin it around and pull it out with force, and see, as you look at it, how dirty your inside is. Perhaps this may enable you or provide the incentive for you to begin to clean yourselves. Once again, you can all go burn in hell. Yeah. Now friends, you're probably laughing or saying, what the hell is he saying? I'm just being humorous here. The President of the United States can send a letter to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the House of Representatives that he can no longer serve as the President. And once that becomes the case, the Vice President automatically begins to serve as acting President. What the President can then do is to send a new letter saying, oh, I take it back, I want to come back into my job. Otherwise, we put into motion the process of the Vice President becoming the next President. Now friends, because of time, I'm not going to read Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. However, I'm not going to read it word for word. However, in terms of the Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, let's assume that the Vice President of the United States, together with the majority of, as it says in the document, the principal officers of the Executive Department. Let me take a pause here. The principal officers of the Executive Department. Once again, the Executive Department is the White House, the Presidential Cabinet. The United States has 3 branches of government. It is a bicameral government, which means it has 2 houses, a House of Representatives and a House of Senate. And it does have 3 branches of government. We are talking in this case the legislative branch, which makes the law, and that is Congress. The judiciary branch, which interprets the law, that is the Supreme Court, the legal system. And the executive branch, as this document is saying, which is the White House. Therefore, the principal officers of the executive branch are the Presidential Cabinet, the Secretary of State, Defense, Agriculture, and so on. So in this case, J.D. Vance was able to convince the vast majority of the presidential cabinet officers that President Trump is crazy. What they have to do is send a letter to the Congress, to the President pro tempore, which is, or who is, the President of the Senate and the House of Representatives, that President Trump is crazy. By doing that, it means that J.D. Vance is taking over, saying that now I am the acting president because President Trump is crazy. Friends, however, no one wants to get fired from a job. Everyone wants to keep their job, probably till they die. We are all people of habit and we are opportunistic, okay? We are people of pleasure and people of reputation. We want to be the boss. Donald Trump is not going to take a lying down. Any president is not going to take a lying down. According to the 25th Amendment, let's assume that President Trump he sent a letter to the Congress. Hey, Congress, I am not crazy. J.D. Vance is lying. I do have a head, and in my head, I do have brains. I do not have lime juice or coconut juice. I am not crazy. I am sound. I want my job back. When Donald Trump does that, Donald Trump is going to resume. He is going to take over again his position as president. However, J.D. Vance is not going to take a lying down. He wants the position. J.D. Vance is going to get back in play with members of the cabinet. And in this case, the 25th Amendment also says that the majority of the Congress. So he's going to get back with the member of his cabinet to send another letter to say, no, the president is crazy. I am going to take over as acting president. This guy cannot serve. This means that J.D. Vance and the other officers of the executive branch, the cabinet, within 4 days they have to reply, okay, send a letter to the Congress, once again that the president is crazy. Once that happens, within 48 hours, Congress has to call a meeting to assess the situation, assess the presidential sanity. Is the president insane or sane? Can he run this country as he's supposed to? By doing that, the Congress has 21 days to be able to come to a conclusion or resolve the matter. If the Congress doesn't do that, then J.D. Vance is in bad luck. Donald Trump could be able to come back as the president of the United States to continue. Because if the Congress is unable to decide, or if the Congress doesn't meet to assess and to conclude that Donald Trump is crazy, Donald Trump can come back to his position as the president of the United States. Friends, we all have to be honest. We are all people of opportunistic behavior and people of habits. J.D. Vance, I believe, is cooking or could be cooking something dangerous for Donald Trump so that he can take over the office of the presidency. Perhaps I could be wrong, perhaps I could be right, but I really want to know what you think. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. But friends, I am going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, or most important, friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing